As the rest of the people come in, those of you who are coming in, you may have to sit up front. Really close. Thank you all for being here at mandatory orientation. Yes, you should be thanking me for something actually, but I'm Emily Sorensen. I'm the one you've received many emails from, and I am the coordinator of the New Lawyer Training Program here at the bar. So over the next year, you'll hear a lot from me, and hopefully I'll hear from you as well. So in front of you, you guys in the back, there are seats up here, and I know you hate it, but there are seats up here with tables. Come sit up here. In front of you, there is the New Lawyer Manual. It has all the policies, the procedures, has forms, and a lot of information. We're going to go through that today. Then you have a timeline specifically for the July 2016 mentoring term. Those deadlines are really important, as you'll hear in just a few minutes. And then you have an agenda for today. And we will follow the agenda as closely as possible. Justice Durham is scheduled to speak first, and hopefully she shows up. So if not, you'll just hear a lot from me. That's fine too. A few housekeeping things. After orientation, if you do not yet have a mentor, or your mentor has not been approved, or you want to make sure that you have turned everything in to me, come see me because I have my latest list of everything that I have. Okay? You know what? We're just going to start because we're just going to. So. And I'm going to interrupt this as soon as Justice Durham gets here, just so you know, because she's slightly more important. But if you will all turn to page 4 in your manual. Up on the top left-hand corner, there are the goals of the program. And I want to start out with this because I feel it's important for you guys to know why this program is here and what we hope you get out of the program. So the goals are to train new lawyers during their first year of practice in professionalism, ethics, and civility, to assist new lawyers in developing practical skills and judgment necessary to the effective practice of law, and to impart to all Utah attorneys the importance of organizational mentoring. So there are 3 goals there. A lot of you may not be, well, some of you may not be in your first year of practice, maybe second. But the goal is to get you while you've just been admitted, at the very beginning of your legal career, into a program that allows you to work one-on-one with a veteran attorney to learn these skills that you may not have learned in law school. So just by show of hands, my own curiosity, how many of you went to the University of Utah? Okay, we're not seeing the fight song. How many of you went to BYU? All right, how many of you went out of state? Oh. All right. Hi, Justice Durham. All right. This is Justice Durham, and she is going to speak. I'm thrilled you're all here, and we're going to make an awkward transition because she's here to speak. So, Justice Durham, very good for a minute, okay. So, as I was talking about, the goals of the program are to teach you these things you didn't learn in law school. Some of you may have had practical training, but this again gives you a one-on-one opportunity to talk to a veteran attorney, to work with them in situations, to ask them questions about ethics and professionalism and civility in certain situations. So we're hoping that through this program and through the activities and events that we have, that you develop these skills. And after Justice Durham speaks, then I will get into the program and logistics and things like that. But Justice Durham sits on the Supreme Court, and she was one of the instigators of this program back in 2009 and even before that. So she is aware of the program. She currently sits on the Utah State Bar and Video New Lawyer Training as well. So I'm thrilled that she was willing to come speak to you for a few minutes. And are you ready, Justice? Okay, we'll turn the time over to her.
Thank Emily and the Commission for inviting me to speak to you today. My name is Christine Durham. I'm a justice on the Utah Supreme Court and actually served as Chief Justice for a period of for 10 years, during which time the court reviewed a petition from the Utah State Bar to approve, institute, and supervise in our regulatory capacity a program for helping new lawyers transition from the educational experience into the professional experience. You spend a great deal of time, we all did, on the substantive law review while we're in law school. I don't know about you, but when I graduated from Duke Law School in 1971, very ancient. You're all much more modern. Nonetheless, I suspect there are some of you who, like me, the day I graduated from law school and actually hung up my shingle in Durham, North Carolina as a single practitioner, because there weren't any law firms in Durham, North Carolina, or Raleigh, or Chapel Hill in 1971 who would interview a woman, so I didn't have a lot of choice about my options. I had no idea where the courthouse was. I had no idea how to draft a pleading. I had no idea how to navigate the internal culture and politics of the various court settings in which I was going to appear. And it was tough. I have to tell you, that was one of the toughest things I have ever done professionally, is to be so isolated and so alone. And I didn't even have, most of my classmates had gone out of state. There were a few locally, but they were very busy with their own practices, and they sent me clients on occasion, but I really had no one to call. And what this program is designed to do is not just to give you someone to call, but to give you someone who has been vetted by the commission, who's filled out an application, who has indicated a willingness and an interest in mentoring new lawyers, give you someone who has a checklist and an outline of the basic kinds of skills and functions that you may need to perform in whatever setting you are in. I mean, some of you are lucky enough, I missed the census. How many of you are actually in firm settings? Okay, so not even a third of you. And that's very typical. These days, the percentage of people who move directly from their educational levels into practice, who actually have a firm, is much smaller than people tend to assume. And also, I would suggest, I hope you're lucky in this regard. I hope those of you who are in firm settings or in institutional settings like prosecutors' offices or the Attorney General or whatever, I hope that you have colleagues in that setting who are willing and able to provide you with mentoring and teaching. But it's become increasingly difficult even for the institutions in our profession to provide that kind of teaching and learning. The economics of the practice of law have made that more difficult. The billable hour and the time constraints on practice have made that increasingly difficult. So this program has been designed to give you access to someone whose job it is and who's demonstrated a willingness and a commitment to do the job, to show you the ropes. And I cannot urge you strongly enough, A, to do your part in developing the relationship with your mentor, making the contacts, getting to know that person, spending some time with them, bringing up your problems, part of the problem is that when we're all of us starting out on a career, we tend not to know what we don't know. But as soon as you start into the practice setting, as soon as you start being asked to do things by clients and colleagues and so on, you will discover very quickly things that you know you don't know. Those are the things that you should raise with your mentor. And I think it's very helpful for those of you who have connections amongst yourselves from academics or training or whatever, to also keep in touch with your peers in this room, because you're all sort of going through the same developmental stage professionally. I was greatly blessed when I moved to Utah in 1973. I joined a small firm and discovered a mentor. It was actually, I think, the first time I'd ever had a mentor in the law. And he was my boss, my senior partner. And it wasn't, I don't think he saw me as a project to take on, and we didn't have checklists, we weren't very organized in those days. But he exemplified for me the values and standards of the profession in a way that changed my professional life. And if you are lucky, you can form that kind of a relationship with the mentors that you will be matched up with, and look to them. Now, that doesn't mean that you may not find mentors with flaws. And if you have questions about what you're experiencing with a mentor, if you have problems with what you're experiencing with a mentor, we on the commission hope that you will come back, give Emily a call, and say, this doesn't seem to be working the way I expected it to. Is this right? Don't be passive about this relationship. Take responsibility on your own for ensuring that it is successful. I'm just kind of curious, how many of you, when you found out about this mandatory requirement for new lawyer training in Utah, how many of you were thrilled? Nobody? Not anybody? Okay. How many of you are resigned? Okay. Let me offer a prophecy. I hope it's a true one. I offer it in hope and optimism that at the end of the experience, you will regard it as a very positive start to your professional life here in Utah. It is from the perspective of the courts, where we see lawyers appearing before us all the time. You would be as dismayed, discouraged, and disappointed as we are to see the numbers of lawyers who come to our courts not really knowing what they're doing and not really doing a good job, the best job that should be done for their clients. That's not right. We have a public trust as a profession. We have a license to take people's property, people's lives, people's relationships, people's businesses into our hands and to help them solve the many ways in which all of those things can be attacked or undermined or just made difficult. And if we don't have the highest standards, not just of professionalism and civility and behaving ourselves ethically, but also of being able to help them, we have no business taking their money. So, now this is all, it's very aspirational, but I hope, as I say, that at the end of your year in working with a mentor, by the way, there's been a lot of research on mentorship. Much of it's been done in the business context and in the employment context, although there's starting to be more work done in the legal profession. Utah, you might be interested to know, is one of the foremost states in lawyer transitioning and lawyer mentoring. Only fewer than a dozen states around the country have put programs like this into place, and ours is one of the better designed and better managed programs, so you're in good hands in that respect. But the research demonstrates some interesting things. It demonstrates that people who have a positive and successful mentoring experience develop a higher degree of satisfaction with their professional life. They find their careers more satisfying. They have a tendency to think about their careers in more global ways rather than just the everyday scrabble of making a living. And they also tend to avoid, in more significant numbers than people who don't have such experiences, those obvious ethical and professional gaps that can ruin a career. I'll just say one more thing, because I've got you. Somebody always says this before swearing in. I'm sure somebody did this last year, and I'll admit I've already forgotten, and you probably have too. Day one, which you've had already, day one, you are building a reputation. People are watching the way you behave. The lawyers on the other side of the case, the judges before whom you appear, the people who consume your written products, clients as well. They are keeping book on you. And the last thing in the world you want to do is block your book. Because that will stay with you for a long, long time. There's nothing more difficult than having a really bad experience with someone and getting that person to forget about it. It follows you around. So That's reason for caution at the outset. You've got to be yourselves, you've got to do your jobs, but remember that you're creating a reputation every day in every setting. So I mentioned the job satisfaction. There's other research that demonstrates that it contributes to skill development and the sort of logistical side of the profession. One of the surprising things, and if you ever feel guilty about taking your mentor's time, you should know about this. One of the surprising things about the research is that it shows that mentors have very distinct benefits from the process of mentoring. They get new ideas. They see problems in a different perspective. And in working through the problems with their mentees, they understand more about the problem-solving roles that they're playing, and they also have significantly increased professional satisfaction. So yes, we want you to be good lawyers, we want you to be ethical lawyers, we want you to be successful lawyers, but you know, I would really like you to be happy lawyers as well. I would like you to love this profession as much as I've been blessed to be able to have this career. So good luck today. I think you're going to get a great overview. Thanks to wonderful staff like Emily who keep this program afloat, and have at it. Thank you.
Thank you, Justice Sherman. It's always great to hear from you. She is a wonderful advocate for the legal profession, and it's quite an honor to have her here. My name is Kim Paulding, and I'm the Executive Director of the Utah Bar Foundation. And I just want to briefly tell you a little bit about the Utah Bar Foundation because we can hopefully bring you joy to your profession. But we also play a role in your mandatory reporting every year, which for some people, mandatory, not so joyful, but we try and do it as easily and pain-free as possible. So the Utah Bar Foundation was founded in 1963 to raise funds for legal services for the poor. And that's great, and we chugged along raising our money until the mid-1980s when the Utah Supreme Court adopted a program called IOLTA. And it stands for Interest on Lawyers' Trust Accounts. And what that means for you is that when you hold your clients' funds, you must hold them in an interest-bearing account. It can either be for the benefit of your client, and I'll talk about that in just a second, or for the benefit of the IOLTA program, which then comes to the Utah Bar Foundation. Now I want to make note, we are not the Utah State Bar. We are a totally separate 501c3 organization from the Utah State Bar. So what do we do with those IOLTA funds? Well, we take those funds and we then grant them out to organizations that provide legal aid or legal services for the poor and disabled. We also grant it to law-related education for any of you that were involved or know about moot court or peer court or some of the wonderful things they do. Programs throughout our state called We the People that teach people about the electoral process, democracy in America, things like that. Now, I'm going to go back to IOLTA for a minute and talk about that one piece that I left hanging out there, which was interest for the benefit of your client. So 10 years ago, this was a very different conversation. We would be talking about interest rates that banks were paying of 4%, 5%. I remember going to conferences complaining about the fact that the banks were only paying us 6%. I laugh now. So if you are holding funds for your client, let's say you're doing a personal injury case and you're holding a settlement of $400,000, of which you will then pay some of the medical fees and your fee, and then the remainder will go to the client, and you know that might be a 6-month process. Well, right now, $400,000 is going to net you an interest rate of maybe 0.25%. If you open a separate account, depending on where you bank, they might charge you $10 to $15 a month in service fees to have that account. You actually won't earn that much in interest, and it will cost your client money for you to have that separate interest-bearing account. For the typical attorney that is taking some advance fees of maybe $3,000, $5,000 to do a divorce or what have you, you will put that in a pooled account called an IOLTA account. If you're with a larger firm, they take care of that, you just simply record it on your licensing form. If you are a solo or small firm, you will need to have a client trust account. Now the most important thing I'm going to tell you is our website, which is utahbarfoundation.org. It has a list of all of the eligible financial institutions where you can bank. There are some credit unions and there are some banks. I will tell you, when you go to open your account, the further you get away from downtown Salt Lake, the more the banker will look at you like you are speaking Greek. And I have had bankers call me and say, I have an attorney here wanting to open an Ayatollah account. And I think, oh boy, we're in trouble. Or even worse, they call and say, I have an attorney here who wants to open a trust account, but they don't have any trust documents. Well, we're not holding trust as in estate planning trust, and so if any of those things happen to you, the first thing you should do is look at my phone number on utahbarfoundation.org and call me from the financial institution so we don't waste your time. Better yet, call me in advance of going. I can give you contact information for a lot of the financial institutions that we work with, so that when you do go, they know exactly what you're after and can expedite the process. Now, the other piece that affects you is that each year, as you go to renew your license, you have to certify that you are in compliance with IOLTA. There's a couple of ways to be in compliance. You have an IOLTA account in the state of Utah, and you give us that information on your licensing form. You actually cannot proceed with your licensing form until you certify that you are in compliance. You don't have to have an IOLTA account. Maybe you're a corporate counsel, or you have one client who you know is always going to pay you and you bill them after the fact. Maybe you're a law professor, or you work for the government, or something like that, and you don't actually have a client trust account. Or maybe you're one of those rare attorneys who actually is licensed in other states, and you hold your client's funds outside the state of Utah, and you have their permission to do so, and that's the important part. And so I don't need to know about your IOLTA account, because it might be held in Colorado or Vermont or wherever it is that you hold your funds. And again, if you have questions on any of those things, please feel free to contact me. Now, a little bit more just briefly on what is the Utah Bar Foundation and what do we do. So we administer the IOLTA program, which is an important piece, but we also give that money away. And so I mentioned we fund legal services for the poor. Now, we do that through a board of 7 attorneys, all with their own opinion, which is always right all the time, even if they're in disagreement, I might add, which makes it for a lot of fun. But you have to be active, licensed in the state of Utah to serve on the board of the Utah Bar Foundation. Every year, we have attorneys that roll off, and we are looking for new attorneys. So if legal services for the poor or law-related education is something that is near and dear to your heart, perhaps you did an internship with one of the agencies we fund, Legal Aid Society, Utah Legal Services, Disability Law Center, Holy Cross Ministries with their immigration program. If that was something that touched you and it's something you're interested in, we would love to have you as a member of our board. Each year in approximately March, we start accepting applications. We have a nomination form that you can find on our website through, sorry to belabor the point, but utahbarfoundation.org. And you can submit that to us, and then we ask people to serve for a 3-year term. It really is a lot of fun. You learn a lot about the organizations that exist. Now, if serving on a board isn't something that really floats your boat and you're not interested in, let me tell you the other important piece of this. You are an attorney. Everybody thinks, I need an attorney to serve on my board. They don't really know what they want you to do, but they know they want an attorney. Or, hey, my sister needs help with her divorce. I'm going to call my brother's cousin, you, who happens to be an attorney, because they'll be able to help. Maybe you practice bankruptcy law or immigration, or you're corporate counsel, and they're calling you about their divorce. Like, no, you don't want to help with that. And so you can refer them to some of the agencies that we fund. Legal Aid Society not only helps people with their low-income divorce, but they also staff a self-help center in the courthouse, in the Matteson Courthouse here, in case you have questions. It's a great way to kindly say to your sister-in-law's cousin's neighbor who's calling you for legal advice that you're not an expert in that area, but here's some resources for you. The Utah State Bar also has a Tuesday night bar, which again, people can come for a 15-minute appointment, brief legal advice, different things like that. All of those things will become helpful as you start to get hit up for help along the way. So that is just a very brief overview of the Utah Bar Foundation and the IOLTA program. If you have any questions, you are always welcome to get a hold of me. If you have problems with your client trust account along the way, sadly there are bank errors that will happen. You might have an assistant who takes your deposit and accidentally puts it in your operating account versus your IOLTA account, and it causes checks to bounce. And God forbid, some of you might actually have someone that takes money from your client trust account, which causes things to bounce as well. If you have an overdrawn account, you will be investigated by the Utah State Bar. Sometimes it's just as simple as it was a bank error and here's the letter to prove it, and sometimes it's not as simple. We are here to help you with any of those problems that arise, or if you have a strange situation where you have a client that's asking you to hold a large sum of money, or I've heard it all. It's amazing what really comes in the door and what your clients ask you to do. I will say, if you get an email from a prince in Saudi Arabia asking you to hold their funds, your answer should be no. Unless you happen to know a family in Saudi Arabia with a prince. Because we have unfortunately had attorneys who have done that, and they have had their client trust accounts cleared out. So any way that I can help you, please feel free to always give me a call. We're happy to help, and as you go to relicense, when that time comes for you, if you have questions on the certification process, again, feel free to get a hold of us at the Utah Bar Foundation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kim. I am, just to piggyback on what Kim was saying, I'm putting together a law practice management resource area within the NLTP webpage, and on there is going to be more information about the IOLTA and her contact information. One of the most popular, which is not the right term, I apologize, but most popular discipline areas has to do with client funds. And so if you have a question at all, call a mentor, call Kim, call OPC. Don't start doing stuff if you're not sure, because you really don't want to talk to OPC. Unless they talk to you and then you're trying to talk to them. Okay, thank you, Kim. Now for the next half an hour, 40 minutes, you get to hear from me. So if you should stand up at any point, turn around and sit back down, please do. But we're going to go through this program. And I'm glad that Justice Durham talked to you about your feelings about the program, because I totally understand. I went through this 3 years ago, so I was where you were. And I get it. It's not fun to be regulated. It's not fun to feel like you're in another year of school. That is not our purpose here. Our purpose is to help you. So I want to just briefly explain, well, Justice Durham explained a little bit of the history of the NLTP, but prior to this whole program, you're required to go to new lawyer CLEs. So they were in groups like this, and they were on subjects specific for new lawyers, and you'd go and you'd sit for an hour, get a credit, and you'd move on. And one of the purposes of this program, again, is to put you with one person and to have these one-on-one CLEs, essentially, is how I look at them. So you can go through the curriculum, which we'll get to in a minute more in depth, and you can really customize your experience in some of these areas of law. So if you're really interested in bankruptcy law, or if you're a family law attorney and you want to dabble in bankruptcy law, you now have a chance to have your own kind of customized CLE. So if nothing else, know that I know how you feel, but I also went through it, and it is a valuable program if you put the time and energy into it, and if you can keep it in perspective as not the bar trying to police you, but as the bar trying to help you become a professional and ethical and competent attorney. So the first thing, and this is why you get so many emails from me, it's about deadlines. Deadlines. We're attorneys, all of us in this room, and deadlines are important. And the deadlines for this program, though there is some wiggle room, the deadlines are important. So I gave you your timeline. You will see that you are halfway done with that timeline because all the easy stuff has been done. We are right there. Mentoring period begins on July 1st, 2016. Some of you, most of you may have already met with your mentor. The mentoring term, meaning all your activities and things like that, starts after July 1, 2016. Has to be done by June 30th, 2017. So within that year, you submit a plan acknowledgement, and I'll show you what that is, and I'll talk about that, no later than August 5th. If you need to do an Outlook calendar reminder, put on your calendar now, do something. That's not something you can do 5 minutes beforehand, but it needs to be to me by August 5th. And then you have 2 progress reports, and if you could cross out progress and put status reports, because I'm really trying to not make this feel like school. They're status reports, and there are a couple of reasons that we do this. One is for you and your mentor to kind of reevaluate where you are, and 2 is to give some integrity to the program so that I don't just send you all out there without kind of making sure everyone's on track and meeting with your mentor. So the first, by November 30th, 2016, the second, March 31st, 2017. Again, I'll show you the forms, but those aren't things you can do 5 minutes before you turn this in. You have to plan those. And then the new lawyer ethics program. Some of you may have already attended, probably just a handful. But the new lawyer ethics program, it is held twice a year in April and October. The next one is on October 20th, 2016. The registration link will be sent to you sometime in August or September. You need to attend once during your mentoring term, unless there's some exigent circumstance that means you have to attend it outside of the term. You have to attend it. It's a 3-hour course until here at the bar, and it fulfills your ethics requirement for your first compliance cycle. And I'm going to talk about compliance cycle later. But that, you have to attend that course in order to keep your license. And then your completion certification is due by July 31st, 2017. So the mentoring term ends June 30th, 2017. You have an entire month to turn that certification in. And I'll show you what that is later. Do I have any questions on deadlines? Okay. This is a licensing requirement, this program, meaning that if you do not finish it in a timely manner, your license can and will be suspended. As of today, I have not had to suspend anybody, but I've gotten awfully close. So I really don't want to suspend anybody's license. I know how hard you've worked to get it. So if you run up against a problem during the term, if you start missing deadlines, if your mentor goes AWOL, anything like that, please just talk to me so that I can help you finish this in a timely manner and so that you get out of it what you need to. Questions? Okay, on page 15 of your manual, it's a steps to completion checklist, and it just delineates a little more clearly what your responsibilities are and what the mentor's responsibilities are. If you see, 99% of the responsibilities are on you, but really all of them are. The mentor has to attend mentor training, and I work with them on that, so you have nothing to do with that. The other responsibility that is solely the mentors, they are the ones that sign the completion certification. But that doesn't mean that you just assume that they will, you work with them on that. But that delineates kind of what needs to happen to complete the program. Okay. The initial meeting, page 16, you have this form. How many of you have met with your mentor already? Okay. Those of you who haven't, this would be especially useful. Those of you who have might find some benefit from looking through this form. It basically gives you a few areas where you want to talk with your mentor from the outset of the program. First of all, come prepared. Find out a little bit about your mentor. Those of you who maybe at the last minute have had to get a mentor, someone you don't know at all, that would be helpful. Google them, find out about them so that you come knowing a little bit about their background. The mentors are also encouraged to find out as much about you as possible. And then talk about the career history of your mentor. Find out where you are similar, where you're different, what their career path was, what you want yours to be. My brain sometimes goes faster. Then the new lawyer goals, and it's part of the plan acknowledgement that you'll submit to me, or to come up with goals for the year. You'll revert, oh my goodness. I apologize. I get so excited about this stuff. Review the mentoring term deadlines and the forms that you need to turn in. Review them at the beginning with your mentor so that You both know when that midterm, I hate that, the status report is due. So you can plan for it. If they're gonna be out of town the week that it's due, then plan to get in earlier. If there's a huge problem with the deadline, you'll know from the beginning so you can work around it. Then develop a mentoring plan, I'll talk about that in a minute, but that first meeting is when you're gonna go through the mentoring plan, pick out which areas of law you wanna do, which experiences you wanna have. And then establish a regular monthly meeting time. I say that semi-loosely. It's always better to kind of have like the second Tuesday of the month is when you meet, or the third Wednesday, knowing that it's flexible enough to change. But if you both expect and know from the beginning that you are going to be meeting every month, then when you start scheduling that month, you already have your mentor meeting kind of booked out, even if you have to change it at some point and move it around. But talk about the scheduling to make sure that you're making those meetings. And the meetings, again, is not to force you to talk to people, but it is to force you to talk to people. There's a reason that we want you and your mentor in the same geographic area, and that we're not doing this over Skype. There's great benefit to meeting your mentor. This also gives you a chance in those months where your mentor may have a deposition that you can sit in on, that you've already planned ahead to do that. So talk about the scheduling and when you want to meet and how you want to meet. And then these last two, the ground rules for the mentoring relationship, and agree to be candid about any problems. Those are huge deals. Talk about whether you just want to talk about work, whether you and the mentor are open to talking about personal issues, other things like that. Whether the mentor wants you to call them via phone or just email them, and vice versa. Set some boundaries, be open and honest about what you want out of this program. I can tell you that these mentors, especially the ones that you guys have now, are experienced and they are invested in the program and they are good attorneys and good mentors. And so you can be honest with them. They also know that at the beginning, new lawyers are kind of reluctant to get into this program. So be honest, but know that it's also a requirement and the mentor is there to help you. Any questions about that initial meeting? I feel like we should have like you talk for a second because I'm already tired of my voice. All right, the mentoring plan. So it's from pages 18 to 27. So there are instructions about the plan, those first couple pages, and then you get into the actual plan. Now the plan is more extensive than you're required to complete. There are 6 required sections. They're the first 6 sections of the plan. You have to complete all 6 of those. Then there are A through Q elective sections. You need to complete 5 of those sections. Not 5 little activities, but 5 like family law and bankruptcy and contract and mediation and client interactions. So 5 other areas. A word about some of these required sections. Section 4, actually we're going to start with section 3. That is the litigation and transaction handling experiences. So you select at least 10 of those. If you notice, however, it says up to 4 of those experiences may be accomplished during law school in a credit-earning externship, law school clinical program, simulated skills course, or a supervised pro bono case. So up to 4 of those you can kind of wipe out from the beginning if you did them in any of those 4 situations in law school. If that is the case, then you will talk to your mentor about what you did. We defer to the mentor to decide whether it fits the activity and whether it fits the waiver requirement. And if the mentor says they're good, then you can just wipe them off and not worry about those, and then you just do 6 others. But it can't be while you were a summer associate. It has to have been in a credit earning situation or supervised pro bono case or something like that. If you have a question, if your mentor has a question about it, please let me know. Okay? Section 4. I get a lot of questions on section 4 as well. It's intro to law office management. It says required for private practice. I know that there are quite a few of you who are in government practice, basically not in private practice. And according to this program, it means that you do not have to fulfill that section. I strongly encourage you to work through that section anyway. You'll learn about IOLTA accounts, you'll learn about calendaring, you'll learn time management skills. Some of these things that are important to practicing, but may not be relevant to you at this moment. However, is not required of those non-private practice. If you elect not to complete that because you are not in private practice, then you need to complete another elective for still a total of 11. Does that make sense? But I strongly encourage you to do it. And we have a seminar every year, so next spring we'll have a law practice management seminar specifically for the NLTP. It's not a CLE or anything, it's specifically for you to fulfill this requirement in kind of a setting like this. We bring in Kim Paulding again, we bring in some solo practitioners and talk about accounting and billing and time management and things like that, just so you're aware of that. Okay, and then you pick 5 of the elective sections, so 5 of those areas of law. And that will constitute your year-long kind of personal program and what you want to accomplish. You will see in some of those sections, for example, elective section D, client interviewing and counseling, there's a little hyperlink, which doesn't look like a hyperlink here, but it is. It says client interaction. We have resources online for some of these. Basically, they're talking points and articles and things like that to help you and your mentor. Brings me to my next point, which is about being creative with this plan. There are 3 different ways that you fulfill a lot of these activities. You participate, you discuss, or you observe. So we would love for you to participate in a majority of these things, to go to a trial, to participate in a deposition, to participate in a mediation, to participate in an administrative hearing, and all of these different things. But we also know reality is not what we always want it to be. So we allow you to discuss or observe when needed. So, for example, when I was going through this program, I was working with general counsel at one of the universities that had no access at all to a trial, like none. And so he put me in touch with someone else where I went and I just observed the trial happening and we fulfilled that requirement that way. Do your best and take pride is not the way to put it, but put into this some effort. So if there is a reasonable opportunity to actually have hands-on experience, take that opportunity. Even if it has nothing to do with where you're practicing now, it will give you talking points when you talk to other lawyers. It will give you a broader perspective on the practice of law, and it will introduce you to professionalism issues and ethics issues and civility issues that you may not have had otherwise. So put in that effort and try and reasonably find opportunities to have hands-on experience. Some of these, like required section 2 about the standards of professional conduct, you can't really have hands-on experience. We don't really want you to have hands-on experience in going through that process. That's the whole point of this program. But that is meant to be discussed with your mentor. We have a great resource that has all the standards and stuff, has articles, and that's another reason why to plan out kind of the year with your mentor. Then you know in March we're going to talk about required section 2, and I can kind of read up on it and have some questions, and we can talk about it that way. So look through this program, the curriculum, prior to meeting with your mentor, and go in with an idea of what you really want to accomplish. And push yourself and challenge yourself to go outside the box on some of these. We've had mentors who have had mock trials in their office with some other associates in their office, just to give the mentor that experience. If you want that, ask your mentor if they're willing to do that. Or client counseling. Some clients aren't comfortable having you sit in, so say, hey, mentor, can we have a mock client counseling or a mock deposition? A lot of the drafting, you can draft mock complaints and mock motions and things like that, so that you actually have, and mock wills and trusts and things like that, so that you actually have that experience, whether or not it's going to a court or going to a client. I just talked a lot at you. Does anyone have a joke? Okay, the other thing that I wanted to point out is you don't have to do all of these with the mentor. So if you have a mentor who's not in your law firm, and in your law firm or in your practice, you are going to trial and your mentor is not there with you, you can still count that trial as part of your mentoring program. You just go talk to your mentor about what you were doing, about some of the issues that came up. Invite your mentor to come watch you do the trial. So you don't have to have your mentor physically there with you doing all of these. Your mentor is there to answer the questions and to be a guide and to help you through it if you need it. Are there questions about that? I feel like I just threw a fire hose at you. It's not school. I promise it's not school. And don't look at it like school. Look at it as an opportunity to kind of dabble in these other areas of law and to get some real hands-on experience. And don't be afraid to ask your mentor to challenge you a little bit. Okay, let's move on. This is the plan acknowledgement, and it is on page 29 of the manual. This is what you will send it to me by August 5th. I don't need the entire huge long plan. I just need this 2-page form. You can rip it out of here and mail it in, or you can scan and email it to me. The form is also online. Excuse me, all the forms are online, so you can download it. Well, what you'll do is basically the first page, you go through, and the first required sections are required, so you have to do those. And then you'll just mark off which of the 5 electives you've done, or you want to do. You can modify the program at any point during the year. So if you get halfway through and realize there's no more interest in family law, then pick another area that you want to accomplish. So it's you can modify it. And then on the back page of that form, these are the goals that you would talk about in your initial meeting. These are not hard and fast goals that I want to see accomplished at the end of, that I need to see accomplished at the end of the year. They're for you to give kind of a purpose and a focus to your mentoring year. So if you really want to get good at immigration law, that's going to be one of your goals. And you're going to look through the program and figure out how the program is going to help you. If you want to become really good at law practice accounting, then you'll focus on law practice management. So that's the purpose of those goals, is for you. And then both your mentor and you need to sign it and date it and get it back to me by August 5th. Questions about that? NLTP and pro bono. Brooke Robinson, who is from Utah Legal Services, she is going to talk to you when I'm finally done, and about NLTP and how pro bono can help you fulfill parts of the program. Especially for those of you who are underemployed or unemployed, we're not trying to make you work for free. That's not the point of talking about pro bono in this orientation. But pro bono cases give you a safe and somewhat accessible way to get hands-on experience in a lot of areas of law. There are clinics and there are family law cases and a lot of resources. I went and did a landlord-tenant eviction pro se calendar in the West Jordan District Court last week. And volunteer attorneys go, they sign up, and for 3 hours, they take pro se clients who are being evicted from their apartments, and they sit with the client and act as their attorney for that limited representation. And so I had client interaction, counseling, I got to negotiate with the opposing party, learned a lot about landlord-tenant law. And for me, who works here at the bar and doesn't practice on a daily basis, it was a great way to get back into practicing and to get hands-on experience in an area of law I never would have even touched before. So that's why we talk about pro bono, but I'm going to leave the rest to Brooke to talk about later. Page 10 to 11, it's just in the policies and procedures of the manual. That's where it kind of talks about how pro bono can help it. I am quite repetitive in this presentation. Can you tell what's important to me? These things? monitoring the 2 status reports and the completion certification. That's how we get through the rest of the program. Okay, the completion certification, I'll tell you again in a year, it cannot be emailed. Yes, it has to be mailed. Currently, the committee and the program, we want a hard copy of that certification with an original signature from your mentor for our records to show that you and your mentor actually met, and that we have that. So for administrative purposes, it can't be emailed. Also remember that in a year, so 12 months that you have, that $150 completion fee is due. That's a little more than $10 a month that you would have to save now. And I'm telling you that now so that next June 15th, you are not calling me saying, I cannot pay that. But you can start now. If you have a legitimate concern about paying that, call me and let me know and we can work something out. But remember now that fee is due. And I want to give you a little idea about why you're paying that fee for a mandatory program. Without the program, you would have to get CLE credits anyway. So the fee covers the 12 CLE credits from the NLTP and the 3 credits from the ethics course. So it covers 15 of your first 27, this is going to confuse you. It covers 15 CLE hours for your first compliance cycle. And it covers that at a reduced rate than you would have had to pay anyway. It also covers administrative costs of the program because it's a required bar program, it has to be administered. So that's what that fee covers. And the bar is aware that it's not fun to pay for mandatory things. But if you have questions or concerns about that, you're more than happy to talk to me. Because I've heard it all and I'd love to talk to you about it. Questions about this? Okay. I hope that you guys are understanding and it's not like, I have no idea what she's talking about. Oh, come on and laugh. Sean, laugh. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Moving on. So this is the NLTP. That is so hard to read. I apologize. utahbar.org/member-services/mentoring. It is the web page specifically for the NLTP. So I have a Twitter account, and I am on like the old group of millennials, so I pretend to know what I'm doing. But we have a Twitter account for the NLTP. If you have articles or anything that you think are relevant and useful, and you want tweeted out to the mentoring universe, I'm more than happy to pass them along. We have a calendar for all the deadlines and activities for the NLTP. So check this about the deadlines. When seminars are planned, I'll add those to them. I'm working with a few attorneys, one at the DA's office and a couple of judges about trials or hearings, things like that that might be interesting for you to go to observe for those who are finding it difficult to get those experiences. So I'll put those up there as well. And then all the program information, all the forms, the mentoring plan, all the resources, all the videos are on this page. You can find anything that anything that I put up there, you can find on there. If you have suggestions about stuff you'd like added, let me know, because I'm always happy to add more resources, things that would be helpful to you as you go through the program. All right. The newsletter you will start getting in July, every month at the beginning of the month. It has sometimes a note from me, sometimes a note from the committee, has articles, has mentoring tips, and then it has the deadlines and news, things that are coming up. So watch for that. Sometimes I think it's always useful, but I'm a geek, so I think it's useful. But look through it. All of the back issues are online, and there are a lot of articles about law practice management, about arbitration, mediation, ethics concerns, things like that. Really have no questions? Okay. So a few of the questions that I get asked, this program must be 12 months. You can't go out and finish it in 3 and say you're done. It's a 12-month program. So if you want to finish all the required things, all 11 of your sections in 3 months, then you're gonna continue meeting with your mentor, doing other things for the next 9 months. So it is 12 months. Space it out, plan out, and get out of it what you, the most that you can. This next one, the MCLE cycle versus the licensing cycle. Your license is renewed every single year. It is a complete separate process from mandatory CLE. So, you've already paid your licensing fees. Those of you who have been practicing for at least a year would have gotten a renewal notice in the mail. Always pay your licensing fees. It's a separate thing. Mandatory CLE is what you'll hear is the 2-year compliance cycle. For your first compliance cycle, the cycle starts the July 1st after you were admitted to the bar. So if you were admitted in October, it would start the following July. If you were admitted in May, it would start 2 months later. So those admitted in October actually have almost 3 years. But your compliance cycle will then go for 2 full years and end on June 30th, 2 years later. Within those 2 years, you need to get 24 CLE credits, except for this first cycle. Because you do 12 hours of NLTP, you do 3 hours from the ethics course, and then you have to earn 12 additional hours of CLE credit in these next 2 years. So 27 this first 2 years, and then 24 for the rest of your career. So there are 2 different things. Don't mess them up. Don't think that you don't have to pay your licensing fees because you haven't finished your hours. And don't think that you have to submit hours every year because they're different. Mentor migration. If you come up against a problem with your mentor, please don't wait until 6 months later to tell me that you haven't been meeting. Call me. I can talk to the mentor. I can talk with you. We can find you a new mentor. You can change mentors once during the program without a question. You send me a form, which is online, with your old mentor and your new mentor, and I say, great, go for it. If you try to do it again, I'm going to ask you some questions. Then if you try to do it again, we're going to have a problem, but not really. But I'll ask you more questions. But you can change mentors because this is supposed to be, again, a beneficial thing for you. And if it's not working with your mentor, then it's not working. And then I talk about the credit for activities. Okay. I'm down to my last 2 slides. So, yes.
So you said you can get credit for like mock counseling and those kinds of things, but I mean the default would be just to actually do it in practice, right? That's the idea. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So we always want you to do it in a real life, hands-on experience. If not, do a mock one.
But that's only for things that start from the point of the beginning of that mentoring period and after. Like we couldn't, anything that we've done before the period started, we can't.
Correct.
Even if it's with this mentor?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And I know how ridiculous that sounds, but we want it to be within the mentoring term. But if you've done an experience in the last 3 months that's also required on here, go a little deeper into that experience. Like if you had to draft a complaint for something and you did that 2 months ago, that's also something that you could do on the program. You can sit with your mentor, take that complaint and say, okay, now in this situation, or bring up a professional question around that situation. Go deeper into it so you're not just doing the same thing over and over again. Or take that complaint and if it wasn't with that mentor, give it to the mentor and say, all right, how do we do this differently? Or ask your mentor if he can or she can introduce you to somebody else who's drafted complaints. Anyway, just, you know what I mean, go a little deeper into it if you've already done it and you don't want to be redundant. I had something brilliant to say off of that. Oh, those of you who are in transactional situations, who I know have a really hard time getting to court, that's when those mock things are handy. Especially like client counseling, where your firm may not be talking to client, you may not have an opportunity at all, and your mentor may not have an opportunity at all to talk to an actual client. Bring in another attorney for that situation who does deal with clients on a regular basis and have them help you out, which is something I was going to say on the next slide, but part of this, we want you to grow your professional network. So ask your mentor to introduce you to other attorneys in other areas of law or who have specific skills that you want to learn. When I was going through the program and I I was doing wills and trusts and I drafted some. My mentor had little to zero experience doing this, so he called a friend who's an estate planning attorney. We went to his office for lunch, and that attorney took the drafts that I wrote and just marked it was like being back in elementary school, it was horrible. Just marked them up. But my mentor and I both learned a lot from that. So your mentor does not have to know everything in this program, and we don't expect them to at all. But we do expect you and your mentor to work together to find other people to bring in. And if you're having trouble finding someone to bring in for like bankruptcy when neither of you know what you're doing, call me, because I have a list of all the mentors I can recommend. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Yes.
Does the attorney that they hook you up with, do they have to be approved by the mentoring list?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
If they are going to work through you on these things. The one exception, I shouldn't even make exceptions, but I do. We want them to be approved mentors because, as Justice Durham said, the mentors have gone through a vetting process and we know that they are good and live up to the standards of the program. So when you start bringing other people in who haven't gone through that, there's a little concern that they may not. If your mentor is in that meeting and working with you and really, really wants this specific attorney and agrees that they'd be good, then I can live with that. But try hard to have another approved mentor. And like I said, I have the entire list. I'm more than happy to recommend people. I know that there are a few judges. One judge in Justice Court said that if anybody wanted to go sit in a trial with him, he'd sit in the back, and not his trial obviously because he can't do both, but he'd go and sit in a hearing or something and watch the hearing with you and then talk with you about it after. So there are plenty of ways to get these things done, even if you're not in a situation to do them naturally. Does that help? Yes.
So is there actually bankruptcy elective, or is that something that's actually not?
There is. If you'll see at Q, because I don't think we've made it into, yeah. So section Q has a whole other list. And thank you for bringing that up. If there's another area of law, because there are always new emerging areas of law, that you are interested in and you'd like to develop a little elective section, then go ahead and do that. Send me that, what you, like the activities. That's what the activity kind of box down the bottom of the queue is for. For example, cybersecurity has come up a couple times before, and the new lawyer and the mentor take it upon themselves to choose 4 or 5 activities that they want to do about cybersecurity. And it's not listed on here, but those activities, once I look through them, look legitimate. So you can certainly do that. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so if all of 5 of your electives come from section Q or you're making them up, that's fine. But I do need to see the activities that you guys are going to do, so it's not like, hey, we're going to talk about disability law, because I have to keep some integrity to this program. So just let me know what you're planning on doing. So yeah, and if you come up with electives that aren't listed here, I will probably ask you if we can keep them on file for other new lawyers down the road to look at. In fact, I believe there is a bankruptcy one drafted activity. Other questions? I guarantee you'll have about 20 of them in the next month. I hope just 20. There'll probably be more than that. I really am open to any questions that you have. Some final words, and Justice Durham also touched upon this, that your reputation in the legal profession is a big deal. And in this profession, you are never anonymous. From day one, you are putting your name on things, you are working on projects, and your name and your bar number and everything lives on for eternity. And I can guarantee that those attorneys who are not civil, who are not professional, they're known. The court knows them, as you heard Justice Durham talking about. The bar knows them. Other attorneys know them. So it is up to you to determine what kind of lawyer you want to be, and we really want this program to help you develop those skills and the judgment necessary to be a competent, practicing, ethical attorney. And anything that we can do to enhance the program to help you do that, please let us know. And I talked about reaching out to other attorneys, but these people in this room, meet a few new people today, because they're going through the same program you are. They are working with a different mentor than you are, and probably in a different area of law. So if you come up against something, you automatically have someone that you can call who's in your same situation that may be a little safer person to call than, Justice Durham, although she's delightful. I would take your call anyway, but take ownership of this program and of your career. The practice of law is great, and I chose not to practice because I had panic attacks before going to court. So I love my job, but I also love taking the opportunity to go and practice when I can, because it's a great profession and there is nothing like it otherwhere. Good night. Otherwise I talked way too long. But I am excited to work with you, and my door is always open. Give me a call. I try and return emails and things like that as soon as possible, but it may not be until the next day if it's not a personal thing. If it's an emergency, just keep sending me 5 of them and I'll eventually get the point. But if you have questions, let me know. Okay? Any questions right now? All right. Brooke Robinson, like I said, is going to talk about some of the opportunities for pro bono work. And then after that, after she is done, I'm not going to get up and close this out, but we'll be done. There are a couple other manuals up here. Like I said, if you have any questions about anything that you need to turn in anymore, come talk to me. Okay.
My name's Brooke Robinson. I'll try to keep this somewhat quick since I know I'm the last person to talk, but I'm the pro bono director at Utah Legal Services. And for those of you that haven't heard of Utah Legal Services, we are a statewide pro bono organization. We're a nonprofit, and we help clients who financially cannot afford an attorney for certain types of cases. Often these are just kind of petty, small claims disputes or business contracts. We try to take on cases that are merit-worthy for clients that really need help, like landlord eviction, domestic violence, if someone needs a protective order, divorce, custody, all of these different things, senior issues. We deal with a lot of senior clients. So we cover a wide area. We cover all civil cases. We don't help with criminal cases except for expungements. But just to let you know, I was looking through the packet of the different activities that you can get, and doing pro bono work is a great way to check off a lot of the activities on here. In addition, we have so many different opportunities for new attorneys, and not even new attorneys, just people to get involved with pro bono work in Utah, because there are so many clients that need your services, they need what you know, and it's a great way to provide service to the community and people who really need help. There's lots of times where clients are so thankful that someone was willing to take their case and even just pop over for a protective order hearing that might take half an hour. And for them, that is a life or death situation, and they're very grateful for that. So there's a lot of different ways to get involved, not even just taking a case. I will be the person who will probably always be trying to bribe you to take different cases or give us any part of your time that you have, but there are different ways to get involved, especially if you don't have time to commit to a full case. But I will say this is a great way to start out. It's not as high stakes as you think it might be. We aren't your firm. We aren't going to say, okay, you may partner whether or not like this case turns out great. We will be there to help you along the way. We have mentors. We'll set you up with anyone. If you need help, we have different materials. We have different resources. We have online training materials. So let me just mention a couple different ways you can get involved with Utah Legal Services. We operate through the umbrella of And Justice for All. It's the nonprofit organization that's the umbrella for most of the legal nonprofits in Utah, including Legal Aid Society in Salt Lake and the Disability Law Center and some others. So you can either volunteer to take a case, which is great, and you can help the client from start to finish or wherever they're at in the case. But if that seems like too big of a time commitment, Emily was mentioning there's different clinics and pro se calendars, which are great ways to get involved. We have clinics throughout the state. If you want to just go and sit down where they have an open clinic for 2 hours and clients can come in and just ask various questions, you can do that. There's different topics and there's great ways to get involved in weird ways. Like there's what do they call it? There's the death clinic in Salt Lake. If you have interest in that or happen to know ASL or anything like that, you can give legal advice there. And there's pro se calendars. So in West Jordan, they just started the landlord tenant calendar, and that's a great way to go get involved. And the nice part about these ones is they're limited representation. So if you don't happen to like your client that much or realize this is going to be a difficult case, you sign in at the beginning of the hearing and the judge knows that you're just there for that hearing and that's it. After that, the client is not supposed to be talking to you. You have no obligation to take on the case unless you want to. And so there's also a family law one, and these are great ways to just get quick experience. You get the experience of taking on the cases. You're also networking. The judges really appreciate it because this gets a lot of their cases off the calendars. Because if you can imagine, I'm sure for a judge it's very painful when they have a pro se case where both sides are unrepresented and they have no idea what they're talking about and they're just complaining about, I don't know, everything their wife did back to 1999 and they want to tell you about it right there. So the judges will appreciate it. It's a great way to network. You're going to be meeting other attorneys, building relationships with opposing counsel. You'll also get your name out there, which if you're a solo practitioner can really help. If people get to know you and you start to build that name recognition. Then there's also opportunities for free CLE credit, which is also great. It's nice right now, you don't need too much with the new lawyer training program, which is very helpful. But you also can just build up different kinds of cases. If you're at a firm that specializes on one type of case and you never do anything else and you say, I'd like to learn a little bit about how to do this type of case, we'll assign you a case and help you along the way. So if you have questions, don't feel like we're just leaving you there by yourself. We're there to help you. I passed out a couple of cards. One was my business card. So if you have any pro bono questions or are wondering about taking a case or any of these schedules for legal calendars, just contact me. I'll help you with anything that you need and whatever I can do. If I don't know, and half the time I don't know, I will connect you with someone that does. And then I also passed out our intake card. So if you know anyone that also needs legal representation and needs some help, if you know someone that's a victim of domestic violence or someone that isn't able to afford an attorney or someone that isn't able to pay you and you just want to refer them on to someone, give them one of our intake cards or give them that phone number and they can call and hopefully get some help and legal advice. So I'll try and keep this short, but when you go to sign up for the bar and you renew your license, there's different things. There will be a box that says check yes if you want to be listed on as a pro bono attorney. Not meaning that you have to take a case. You were never obligated until you sign up, but just make sure you check that box because then you'll get emails and the bar will send out a list and it will say, okay, we have 5 cases that we're trying to place in your district. Would you like to take any of them? And that way you can be notified for what cases are waiting because unfortunately some of our clients are sitting there waiting for an attorney. They're waiting to get picked up off of the waiting list for 3, 4, 5 months, even longer. And so they are very appreciative when you can take a case. And there's different ways. We mentioned the clinics, the pro se calendars, and this is something interesting. If you're interested in getting some credit or learning how to do a family law case, at Utah Legal Services, we do a program in the spring and the fall. So our spring session just ended, but if you're interested in the fall, we do a 7-week training on how to do a family law case start to finish, and it's free CLE credit, and you'll be taking a pro bono case. So that's a great way to get credit, as well as just free training on how to do something, especially for a lot of you in practice, you'll probably be taking a lot of family law cases, and that might be a good way to say, okay, how do I do a divorce? How do I do a custody case? And it's just an hour. It's like every other week. So there's just 7 times, so it's really not a whole lot, but you'll get a free CLE credit hour for each time, and then you'll also be assigned a case to follow up with. And so it's a good way because you'll have mentors, and you'll also be getting the CLE credit, like I said. But just make sure, maybe glance through your packet. There's a lot of ways where you can easily check off a lot of your activities on the required sections, which is nice because sometimes you get to choose the electives and that's an area you're practicing in, but the required ones you have to do. So if you can do service along the way, I think it's a great way to kind of check that off, and it also counts for your CLE credit. And depending on your employer, you can sometimes be counting this as time because it's training time for CLEs. So you can check those out. The first section has a lot about the introduction to the legal community, as well as I think it was section 4 or 5, no, it's number 6. So there's a lot there, and I would be willing to help if you need to get any activities done and would like to do them through a pro bono case, just contact me. And also, we're always looking for attorneys that are practicing in more of the remote districts because it's a lot harder to find someone, an attorney, if they live out in Vernal or Blanding or towns that I have never even heard of, and I grew up in Utah. So if I could maybe just see, how many of you will not be practicing primarily in Utah County or Salt Lake? Okay, so there's a couple, that's good. I may be following up with you, but same with everyone else. There's so many cases in the Salt Lake and Utah County area. So feel free to contact me with pro bono questions. Please sign up. I know it's a lot of time commitment, but there are options. We also have a lawyer of the day hotline where you can sign up and say, I don't want to leave my office, but I'd be interested in doing pro bono work. We can get you signed up. And that way, if a client calls in through the self-help center and they have legal questions, you could say, I'll be here from 11 to 1 p.m. on this day. And they can direct questions to you, and you would get signed up. And you might not even get any calls, but you would be getting pro bono time, you'd be providing a great service, and you don't even have to leave your office. Half the time you might just be sitting there working on your cases anyway. So there are options, so don't feel restricted. If you don't want to take a case, there are lots of other opportunities to get involved. And that's about all I have for right now. Do you have any questions? I want to get you guys out of here, so feel free to contact me, but any right now? Okay, we're good. Sign up for